All right, let's talk about C programming. If you're studying for an exam, there's one topic that almost always trips people up: strings. So today, we're going to break down the most common traps and the trickiest questions to make sure you're totally ready.
Okay, let's just dive right in. Think of this as our own little study session. We're going to walk through 5 critical questions that pop up on exams all the time. By the end of this, you're going to have these concepts down cold. Ready to go?
First things first, we've got to start at the very beginning. Before you can tackle any of the complicated stuff, you have to nail the absolute fundamental idea of what a string even is in C.
So question 1, what exactly is a string in the C programming language? It sounds super simple, I know, but getting this definition right is the foundation for absolutely everything else we're going to talk about.
And here it is. In C, a string isn't some special built-in thing like in other languages. Nope, it's just an array of characters, a char array, with one super important rule. It has to end with a special character, the null terminator, /0. This little guy is absolutely critical. It's the secret signal that tells the computer where the string officially stops. Without it, the program would just keep reading random junk in memory, and trust me, that is a recipe for disaster.
Okay, let's jump into one of the biggest traps you'll find on any C programming exam: getting input from the user. This is an area where one tiny mistake can cause some seriously big problems.
Which brings us to question 2. How do you securely get text from a user, especially when that text might have spaces in it? The key words here are securely and spaces, because not all input functions are created equal, not by a long shot.
And this slide lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got gets. My advice? Forget this function even exists. Seriously, it's incredibly dangerous because it leads to a huge security hole called a buffer overflow. Basically, a user can type way more data than you planned for, crashing your program or even letting them run malicious code. It's so bad it's actually banned now. On the right side, that's our hero, fgets. It's safe because you tell it exactly how much space you have, and it knows how to handle spaces perfectly. This is always the right answer.
So you've got your string, and you did it the safe way. Now what? How do you actually do stuff with it? Well, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. C gives us a super powerful library, string.h, and it's packed with all the essential tools you'll need.
All right, on to question 3. And this covers the most basic thing you'll want to do. How do you find out how long a string is? And of course, here's the little follow-up question that teachers love to ask. Does that null terminator character, the /0, get counted in the length? The answer is the string length function, which just stands for string length. And here's the critical detail you have to remember. String length does not count the null terminator. It just ignores it. So for the string merhaba, which you can see has 7 characters, string length will give you back the number 7, totally forgetting about that invisible 0 at the very end.
And of course, the library gives us a couple more heavy hitters. If you need to copy a string, you'll use strcpy. If you need to join 2 strings together, you use strcat. Now, it's worth knowing there are more secure versions of these two that help prevent those buffer overflows we talked about. But for the basics, these 2 are the workhorses you'll be using all the time.
Okay, now for what is, without a doubt, the single biggest mistake that students make with strings in C. I promise you, almost everyone falls into this trap at least once. So here it is, question 4. Take a good look at this line of code on the screen. If isum1 equals isum2. Let's say we have 2 strings, isum1 and isum2, and we just want to check if they're the same. What is the critical, show-stopping error right here?
And the error is using the double equals operator. Here's why. In C, when you use double equals on arrays, and remember, strings are just arrays, you're not comparing what's inside them. You're actually comparing their memory addresses, like their house numbers in the computer's memory. And since they're 2 different variables, they'll pretty much always live at different addresses, even if they hold the exact same text. So, what's the right way to do it? You have to use a function. The correct one is strcmp, which stands for string compare. It looks at the actual letters inside both strings. And here's the part you have to remember. If they are perfectly identical, strcmp returns the number 0. Not true, not 1, but 0. That's how you know they're equal.
Okay, let's put all this together now and solve a classic programming puzzle, the kind an instructor might give you as a homework assignment. It's a great way to combine all the tools we've just been talking about.
And here's our final big question. How do we figure out if a word is a palindrome? A word that reads the same forwards and backwards, like kayak or level or madam. How would you actually write a program to check for that?
You know, this problem is perfect because it ties everything together. Here's the game plan. Step 1. You make a copy of the original word using strcpy. Step 2. You write a little loop to reverse all the letters in that new copy. Step 3. You compare the original word with your reversed copy using strcpm. And finally, Step 4. If strcmp gives you back a 0, then you know for sure it's a palindrome. See how all those tools just came together?
Okay, let's wrap this up with a quick cheat sheet. These are the absolute, non-negotiable key points you need to burn into your brain before you walk into that exam.
Let's lock these in. Rule 1. Every single C string ends with that invisible 0 null terminator. Rule 2. strlen tells you the length, but it ignores that terminator. 3. For user input, fgets is your safe friend, gets is the dangerous one you avoid. And finally, you can't use == or plus to compare or combine strings. You have to use the functions like strcmp and strcat.
You know, this quote really nails it. In C, strings are an incredibly powerful tool, as long as you play by the rules. But the moment you forget them, they can become pretty dangerous. Knowing these rules is what really makes the difference. And with that, I'll leave you with a little something to chew on. We've mastered working with single words, but what if you have a full sentence? How would you go about splitting that sentence into its individual words? That's your next challenge. Thanks for tuning in.